Immortality's Dark Side, Overpopulation and Eternal Dictators. Welcome back to School of Soul. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Science of Age Reversal series. It sounds like a dream, cheating death, living not just longer, but healthier, smarter, more vital, waking up each year stronger than the last. But what happens when that dream becomes reality? For only a few? What happens when the power to extend life is no longer a miracle, but a monopoly? Because immortality, when viewed from the surface, is shiny. But underneath, it's loaded with danger. Social danger, political danger, existential danger. And today, we're going to talk about the shadow side. The side no one funding longevity startups wants to mention. The part where things start to look less like progress and more like dystopia. Let's start with the most obvious concern: overpopulation. If people don't die, then how do we make room for new life? Birth and death have always worked in rhythm. One leaves, one enters. It's the cycle of balance, the system of circulation. But what happens when that rhythm is broken? Imagine this. By 2080, let's say a segment of the population has access to real age reversal therapy. Not just extending life by 10 years, but 100. Now imagine these individuals never retire. They never vacate housing. They never release resources. They keep earning, keep consuming, keep occupying space. While younger generations struggle for housing, food, and opportunity, the world becomes locked in time. The old never leave. The new can't rise. We become a planet of permanent incumbents. In that world, resource strain becomes violent. Land, food, energy, water, all originally designed for cyclic use, get absorbed into one end of the population and never recycled. Innovation slows, culture stagnates, society calcifies. And here's where it gets darker. What happens when the people who live forever also rule forever? Because in a world where death is optional, power becomes permanent. Political figures no longer age out. Tech moguls no longer hand over the reins. CEOs remain in charge not for 10 years, but 100. And if they're the ones who can afford the best anti-aging science, the gap between ruler and ruled becomes biologically unbridgeable. Now let's talk about eternal dictators. What if the worst people in power, the tyrants, the demagogues, the puppet masters behind the curtain, suddenly get another century to control everything? Think about that. History has always relied on time to remove toxic regimes. Time is the Great Reset. But what happens when time no longer works? What if someone like Stalin, Mao, or any modern authoritarian figure never had to leave? What if their power became cellular, reinforced by biotech, unrestricted by age? You don't just create political problems, you create biological empires. And don't think for a second that this possibility is being ignored. Many of the people funding longevity startups are already in the top 0.01%. They sit at the intersection of wealth, policy influence, and data ownership. If they become the first biological immortals, the entire global structure of leadership shifts. Not through elections, not through coups, but through permanence. Not just rich forever, alive forever. And when someone becomes too powerful to die, how do you stop them? This is the dark spiritual paradox of immortality. When you remove death from the equation, you also remove surrender. You remove the great equalizer, and you remove the consequences of time running out. Because the truth is, death has always humbled humanity. It's forced us to prioritize, to forgive, to evolve. It's the teacher that makes life precious. Without it, the soul can easily become drunk on control. And here's another layer. Legal systems break down. If someone lives to 180 and commits a crime at age 30, do we still sentence them to 10 years? What does justice look like when time is infinite? How do inheritance laws function when no one ever passes away? What happens to generational wealth when it's no longer inherited, but hoarded? Then there's the economic collapse. If people stop aging and never leave their jobs, how do younger people enter the workforce? Retirement becomes obsolete. Insurance, social security, pensions, all collapse. Even the real estate market would choke under frozen ownership. Nobody moves, nobody dies, nobody makes space. And what about soul evolution? In most spiritual traditions, death is not an ending. It's a transition, a checkpoint, a passage of wisdom. If you skip that passage, do you also stunt your soul? Do you become a being trapped in a single incarnation, repeating lessons you were meant to outgrow? Because longevity without growth is stagnation, and stagnation is its own kind of death. Let's not forget the mental health crisis that could arise. Already, people suffer from midlife burnout, spiritual disconnection, and existential dread. Now imagine extending that confusion over 150 years, 200 years, or indefinitely. The boredom problem is real. Studies show that people fear immortality, not because they don't want to live, but because they don't want to feel trapped in a life without change. And what about suicide? If people can't die naturally and immortality becomes normalized, do people begin to self-select out? Does voluntary death become the new off-ramp? If so, how does society treat those who say, "I've had enough"? Are they labeled weak, mentally ill, or awakened? Because the scariest part about all of this isn't just that immortality may be possible. It's that we may be utterly unprepared for it. We've built societies, religions, laws, economies, and cultures on the assumption that life is finite. If that assumption breaks, everything breaks. So yes, anti-aging science is exploding. Lifespan is stretching. But before we reach for forever, we need to ask what forever actually means. If we remove death from the equation, we must replace it with conscious choice, with humility, with spiritual intelligence, or we'll simply be repeating the same patterns for eternity, with no lesson, no release, and no way out. Because immortality without transformation is hell. Hi, I am Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and SOS, School of Soul has a brand new series, the AI and Future Technology series. Look, you know the world is changing, and no, it's not going back to normal. Normal is over, and what's coming next is beyond anything we were prepared for. The School of Soul, AI and Future Technology series includes 319 videos on 1. The Download Society, How Data Has Replaced Destiny. 2. Predictive Future. Your next moves aren't random, they're forecasted. 3. Social Credit Systems. The behavioral economy now governs access. 4. Hive Mind. Synthetic telepathy and collective algorithmic control. 5. Nanobots inside you. Medical, military, and programmable intrusions. 6. Grief Tech. AI-fueled digital resurrection and simulated comfort. 7. Uploading your mind, consciousness transfer, and data-based identity. 8. Deep fakes plus AI clones. The replication of reality and identity theft. 9. Quantum humans. The merger of biology with quantum systems. 10. Digital afterlife, where your data goes when you die. 11. Resurrection science, reviving life through synthetic methods. 12. Immortal science, the end of death as we know it. 13. Longevity science, gene editing, anti-aging, and bio-upgrades. 14. Designer babies, engineered perfection before birth. 15. Artificial wombs, birth decoupled from the female body. 16. 3D printing, printing organs, limbs, and even humans. 17. The humanoid era, the rise of synthetic beings among us. 18. Legacy humans, the slow phase-out of unmodified analog people. 19. Smart cities, algorithmic environments that watch and decide. 20. Cloud-based societies, citizenship without borders or bodies. 21. Hackable humans, emotion, memory, and behavior under code. 22. Biometric scanning, your body is your password and your prison. 23. Sex tech, intimacy reprogrammed by machines. 24. Extinction of gender, fluidity, deletion, and design of identity. Every topic is fully explored with real-world technologies, patents, case studies, ethical analysis, and future forecasts. These aren't someday discussions. This is already happening. Join the SOS School of Soul Vault to overstand the future before it's implemented on you.